All the world's a stage, and all the men and women merely players. They have their exits and their entrances, and one man in his time plays many parts.
Right here, if you have a beard, random men are going to always walk up to you and try to lick your beard.
Ew, that's so disgusting. Oh.
You're one of Mitten's kittens.
Hold on, so I'm like, nope. Oh, well, you lost all your fleets.
Oh, fuck. Not what we intended. Oh, God. What do we do?
The Meta Show.
What's up, everyone, guys? Welcome back to the Meta Show on this awesome 4th of July day. It is Independence Day here in the States, so expect aliens to come and invade the U.S. like the movie, and Will Smith will pop up behind me later in the segment, by the way. It's just things that happen.
Thank God for Will Smith. Oh, he's a helper.
Yes. But guys, like I said, welcome. You have just myself and the Mittani here to start with. We're going to be doing things a little bit differently today. We're going to break the show into segments. We're going to do a segment on nullsec meta, then we're going to shift into changes that CCP is making in the game, especially with the upcoming patch Aegis, and then we're going to shift into the guest segment. So guys, in between the CCP changes and the guest segment, we will have a 2 to 3 minute intermission. That way we can get the webcam set up and video stuff, and then we'll continue on with the show. So guys, bear with us. This is the first time trying this, and of course, every time we change anything, shit completely breaks. It just happens.
It's going to be awesome. I'm pretty excited for it. We have a new background and everything too, and we have
super snazzy, man.
You know, it's actually quite well done. I like it. It's I'm not gonna lie, I like it better than the what was it we had before? We had like some random pictures of tempests and typhoons and stuff.
Yeah, it was like Cerberuses and all. Like, it changed depending on the week.
Well, one of our viewers, Pixel Sarge, if you can see it that way, has already picked up on the truth, which is he senses an incoming spin zone, and I imagine that there's going to be a lot of spin zone today. I'm pumped. Yeah. I'm ready to spin.
Oh my god, I'm getting so many resubs right now because I fixed HypnoKitty, so anytime someone resubs, it pops up now.
Oh,
so
wow, so the Hypno didn't work. Oh my god.
I have HypnoKitty blowing up in my headset right now.
I see it a second or two. Oh, so you still have the sound notifications turned on?
Yes.
Okay, so basically people can bomb your ears and ruin us by subscribing.
Yes, exactly.
The weirdest way to support the channel possible is to screw with the people doing the show that you like and making them cringe. But at least you're not making Mittens Kittens jokes anymore. So
Mittens
that's good.
Kittens.
It's all these, it's all these like beard things and waifu jokes. Of course, that was a different show.
Yeah.
But you never know. All right, so what's the plan, Laz? You're the guy with the format, with the schedule, with the fancy background and the beard. So
I wouldn't go that far. I mean schedules and formats. We don't typically abide by those on this show. What are you talking about? Guys, jumping straight into it, guys. We're gonna go into the actual nullsec meta. It's why you come to this show, is you want to know what's going on in 0-0, politics-wise, and all that. And we're going to jump feet first into it. You see, we have a fancy new splash screen for that for each single title, and we're gonna pop that for a second. And now we're into the nullsec power hour. Just kick things off.
Nullsec power hour.
Nullsec
awesome.
power hour. It's actually gonna be about 10 minutes, but we're gonna call it the power hour anyways because it's our show. We do what we want.
And it's exactly like naming the True Emperor Maximilian Singularity the Sixth, the first of his name. This is a 10-minute segment called the Nullsec Power Hour, and you're just going to have to deal with it. Okay.
Yep. So first on our list is the Triumvirate and X-Death situation. So if I don't know how much you've read up on this, the Mittani, but Triumvirate...
The Mittani. Wow.
The Mittani.
Okay, so I'm pretty excited about the segment, guys, in general, because we do want to let people know, for the people who are politics nerds, that they'll get their fix right at the start, and then later we'll get into some gory game mechanics in a later segment. So for right now, one of the bigger simmering conflicts that we can describe in the pre-Aegis, pre-Fozzy-Sov, EVE Online sort of nullsec landscape has been this conflict between Triumvirate and Legion of Death, with allies and third-partiers coming in on either sides. So there was Nulla Secunda was over there. You had Triumvirate fighting against Legion of Death, taking territory in the drone regions. Now, we had a major shift that happened just within this last week, where there was actually a peace treaty of sorts struck between Legion of Death and their forces and Triumvirate. Now, this might confuse people. It wasn't just a peace treaty. I mean, the Legion of Death essentially ceded the territory to Triumvirate. But part of that deal was that Triumvirate would now be blue not just you get your space and let's stop fighting, but you will actually be blue to Legion of Death. And the clear political maneuvering here is that Legion of Death has taken an attacker and, using a bit of diplomacy and some concessions, flipped them into a lever to use against Solar Fleet, which of course is led by Maktep, Master in Russian, who are the sort of sworn enemy of Legion of Death. And if we want to go way back, Laz, do we want to go way back into like crazy Russian politics from the Dark Ages? Is that something?
I think because a lot of people playing the game currently in our coalition or in people watching the show probably haven't played as long as that history goes back to. So I think maybe
very
a brief
long. It's like a decade or more. Okay, so
yeah, that's a brief. Let's jump quickly into it, but not sound like too long and explain everything.
Okay,
because it's a lot of history.
It is like almost a decade of history. Mm-hmm. So back in the day, Russians are of course one of the largest demographics in EVE as far as what country or what cultural group our player base comes from. So way back in the day, from like 2003 to approximately 2007. There were only a few major Russian entities. You had the sort of Stained Russians, you had Red Alliance, and the Stained Russians and the old school Against All Authorities were sort of together, usually under the aegis of a man named Evil Thug. Mm. So those guys were down in that area, Stain and Catch. Meanwhile, Red Alliance had three major oligarchs, is what we called them. They're not actually oligarchs, but that was just the sort of political shorthand that we as observers would use. And Red Alliance had three major leaders that still have a major impact on the game today. They had Master, who now leads Solar Fleet, Death, UAX Death, who leads Legion of Death, XIX, and you had Nink, also known as Poops in Russian. NYNC is phonetically Poops in Cyrillic.
I didn't actually know that. That sounds pretty
it's apparently like some sort of little doll. It's like a diminutive in Russian, sort of an in-joke. There's a lot of these. But what happened, like the reason why we're still dealing with the fallout of this situation, a decade later, is that the early Red Alliance was one of the first Russian organizations, right? There weren't that many Russians that weren't either under Evil Thug and his group with AAA and the Xenonauts, Stained Russians, or RA. And RA was locked in a battle to the death with the old Southern Coalition, that being Laka Volterra and all of their hangers-on, who were destroyed in the early phase of the Great War. But to bring it forward a bit, what happened was after the first phase of the Great War, when LV and all these old enemies of Red Alliance were destroyed by the Red Swarm Federation, which was Goon Swarm and Tau Ceti Federation allying with Red Alliance, a lot of the oligarchs, the three leaders of Red Alliance, said, you know what, screw this. We've won our peace, our ancient enemies are dead. And they sort of went up into the drone regions, and each of these leaders formed their own sort of alliance out of Red Alliance. Red Alliance proceeded to decline. Solar Fleet and Legion of Death were friends for a while and divvied up territory in the drone regions. And then a couple of years ago, there was this massive backstab and civil war. I think this was like 2011, thereabouts.
That's not right.
Yeah, and so then Maktep and Death became bitter enemies, and many of the conflicts in the Russian community that we've seen play out in the drone territories involve Solar Fleet took out all of Legion of Death's territory and basically conquered and rented out most of the drone regions. Death had it previously, and then Solar Fleet had some issues, and there's just this constant back and forth. So to understand the Russian politics in the drone regions, you need to understand that those major actors, Master and Death, hate each other's guts and will never stop hating each other's guts, and will ally with anyone to use as a lever against one another. And that is Russian politics, or at least a brief look at it.
That was pretty well done. I mean, that kind of, like, I said keep it brief, and I think that was probably the quickest you could really do
it's
that
about
much.
3.5 minutes, I think, of just Russian politics data dump, right? Like, and you can go really far down into the weeds. Usually, this does fascinate me because this is the metagame where I live, and you see this sort of stuff reflected on the map, and people in EVE don't necessarily know why the map looks the way that it does. Usually, whoever is owning the drone regions is using it to rent out.
Right.
It's a massive renter empire. So a lot of times people will cut deals and do treaties to avoid war, any kind of major warfare, because it disrupts the business of renting. And these conflicts are always about who gets a slice of the renter pie. We're not going to make any statements or normative judgments about where that income stream goes, what it does, any of that. You can fill in the blanks however you want, but you will usually see treaties ending wars in the drone regions like this, where Legion of Death will blue people who have been taking their stuff just to use them to go after to Solar Fleet. So.
Triumvirate did post, Ars Tyrell, the Triumvirate's leader, did put out an alliance post, or an update rather, saying that, guys, we can't fight X-Death and Null at the same time, they have too many numbers, etc., so I guess if you can't beat them, join them, is what they put out to their members.
Yeah, I think the argument was that they were getting too many third parties. There was basically only 2 major content areas in nullsec currently, as everybody twiddles and waits for Fozisov. You can either intervene in the Triumvirate versus Legion of Death conflict, which, Nully and Incidad and several other people, PL would periodically go over there, or you can mess around in the Southwest with this Brave and Fountain mess, whatever the hell you want to call it, with Black Legion.
Right. Well, and speaking about Brave...
Oh, God.
What the fuck is happening right now with Brave? I mean,
okay.
Because we have about 5 minutes left, I think, in this segment, and then we're going to have to move on, and I don't know if we'll be able to get all of our points, but I think Brave is kind of one of the big points that we
Brave is a hot issue. One thing I want to talk about, just to give a shout-out before we dive into the Brave stuff, one notable piece of news that happened was Davinian, who was a former director of Test Alliance Policing War from back in the day, did blow up a Titan. He sacrificed a Titan in a community event last night to raise money for leukemia, which was excellent, very well received, and it's really nice to see the EVE community coming together for that kind of thing.
He raised $20,000 total, or all together for the event. So, I mean,
that is insane and awesome, and thank you to everyone who helped participate in that, and also fuck cancer. Okay, Brave. Well, Laz, do you want to start off with setup, or should this just be me? Gear up to run my mouth a little bit more.
I can talk a little bit about it. I mean, if you look at the Brave Newbies Reddit and you look at on Reddit in general, guys, you'll see nothing but Brave articles lately, and it's about a lot of it's about Licton, their leader. A lot about is how Licton recently got rid of his sea level. He got rid of his, I guess, council, and he's going to
Council of Newbie Management, the CNM.
Exactly. I didn't realize that what the CNM stood for.
That is actually because the CSM is such an effective and useful entity that they have decided to, for many years, to mirror it in helping them run an alliance.
And I mean, you've been on here before, and when it comes to leading actual groups in 0-0, the number one rule, period, is. There is no council system. You have a dictator, and he has his right and left hand that kind of help advise him, but that one person is the leader. You don't have a council, because then shit gets all congested and nothing ever happens.
So, I mean, let's get into the gory details here. So basically, there's this huge simmering drama for the last week about Licton gave this speech about how they were going to go on to Licton being the leader of Brave, who has been having a lot of problems. He is constantly saying that people are trying to raise coups against him, which is a bit ridiculous because that's not really how the game works. And he ran into a storm of criticism for basically not really leading effectively this last week, and then abruptly he disbanded the Council of Newbie Management, which was seen as a step towards actually taking command and ownership of his alliance, like getting rid of the excuse of I have a council. And then something weird happened. He claimed that he had no internet, and that someone named, I believe, Nancy Crow is going to be in charge of Brave, and basically said, I have problems with my internet. This person, who is like a logistics director, is now in charge of the alliance because my internet isn't going to work for the near future, and I can only use my phone because there's totally not things like internet cafes and laptops and Wi-Fi's.
Yeah, I think he actually posted that he was, I guess, in a different, he was away from home or something and didn't have access. I mean, we saw this a lot with Sir Mole back in the day.
It is a classic move, like the I'm in trouble or my alliance is in trouble, and so I'm going on vacation. So what happened then was, I believe this new person, Nancy Crow, abruptly in charge of Brave, has started looking to make a deal with Black Legion to either just abandon all their Sov and Fountain, give it up, trade it to Black Legion, something or other. So, I mean, whoever that is at least displaying some leadership, I guess. I don't know. But it's just it's a dog's breakfast. I mean, the recurring theme that I'm seeing from the other newbie organizations has been that, with the EVE Online peak concurrent user situation, what it is, entities like Test, like Karma Fleet, like Pandemic Horde, are concerned, possibly even EVE University, but they're neutral. They haven't made any public statement that I've seen, that it's potentially bad for the game to have a nominally pro newbie organization be so mismanaged, because people come into the game, they see brave newbies, they join it, and then they go, what a mess, and then they quit, and we lose those people in EVE. So, I mean, hopefully they'll either fix their shit or stop.
Yeah, I think that's everyone in EVE is to that point, is either get your shit together or just kindly disband, so that we can actually
clean up the mess. I mean, it was fine actually. I mean, the thing, Brave Newbie's heyday was actually long before they went to SOP, when they were in Barlogay. And people would be able to go to low sec. There was no pressure. There was none of these arcane Sov mechanics or grinds, which are, newbies can do those things. You can build organizations to do all those things. We have for years. But the sort of management structure, I think they took the management structure that they had when they were living in a low sec system with no real pressure, no real risk, and all of these ideals and shoulds, which are dangerous, shoulds and ideals of that kind will obscure the way the world actually works. And then they tried to transport the same structure to nullsec, Sov nullsec, and then they got obliterated. And then they've been in Sov in one form or another for like a year and a half now, it seems.
Well, and a lot of people didn't a lot of people gave them room to get into nullsec and grow, but then they did finally get the guns turned on them, and ever since that happened, they just kind of started falling apart.
Yeah, you can't do the excuse thing in nullsec. Like, it doesn't matter. Nobody cares whether you're a newbie or not. You have to be able to fight. You have to be able to adapt. And if you're expecting other entities in nullsec to just give up their interests in order to obey your ethics and ideals, you're going to repeatedly get your ass kicked. You have to adapt. You have to fight. That's what nullsec is about.
Unfortunately for them. But we've kind of run over time for that segment, guys, so we're going to go and swap into our next segment, which is we're going to be talking about patch changes, dev blocks, stuff like that in EVE Online, and it's going to be well named as CCP Please. CCP Please!
CCP Please! All caps, of course.
Yes.
CCP, all caps, CCP PLS. Do we have a funky intro screen for that?
I put it up, but it was actually spelled out please. We'll have to fix that for the next show.
Oh, well, we don't want it to say
no,
please.
It has to be
please.
PLS. Yes, please. CCP Please.
Okay.
All right.
Well,
so
we'll get that fixed for next time, guys. I'm sorry.
We apologize.
So we're doing it live, like Bill O'Reilly.
The biggest thing I think to come out recently, I think, would have to be the wormhole nerf, and I think we should devote more time to that instead of some of the other changes.
Okay, well, do we want to, because, I mean, I have a little, I want to hear you run your mouth. Why don't you take us through the Ishtar changes, because you're the EFT and Fleet Command expert, before I get on my soapbox. And,
the Ishtar changes are about a week and a half old. We were supposed to do them last week, but we didn't have enough time. But the Ishtar changes are basically, they're removing a mid slot and adding a low slot, which means you're not going to be able to fit an actual decent shield tank on anymore. And they're also lowering the power grid, so you're going to have a lot of issues putting that oversized prop mod. So they're effectively neutering the kite Ishtar doctrine, which is a really, really good thing for the game, and they're also going to be lowering the amount of damage you get out of drone damage amplifiers. So they're doing a lot of drone nerfs, and I definitely think that drones were in too strong of position, and that all of these are warranted. The other change that came out of that was they're increasing the DPS on the Tempest by giving it a larger rate of fire buff from 5% to 7.5%. So you're going to be, according to Rise's blog, a 950 DPS gun Tempest. So I mean that's pretty hefty, but I don't think you'll be seeing Tempests anyways. Even with the buff, I don't think they'll really come back because they do have a pretty weak tank comparatively.
Well, it's still the same problem that we have with battleship doctrines across the board. I mean, we haven't seen battleships get used doctrine-wise for years.
Well, they're starting to come back.
Bombs.
Yeah, you have people with their TFIs. TFIs are big right now. Macarials, Dominixes.
At the smaller fleet size, that's true. I mean, Dominixes are great, but you can do Macarials, you can do TFIs when you're talking about a fleet of like 100 to 150 guys, but they're not really equipped for block warfare. But of course, there's no block warfare happening.
Have found out how to counter bombs though with smart bombs. The people are using smart bombs effectively now, which is why the TFIs are big because they have the 2 spare high slots. Then they use 2 different damage types of smart bombs to kill bombs before they detonate. So that people,
excellent.
That's why you're starting to see resurgence.
It's a high skill cap kind of thing. I mean, you can certainly see that for a Pandemic Legion organization.
Yeah, basically you have to have someone in your fleet that's watching the ranges on bombs, and then once the bombs get within a certain range, you tell everyone to
call the exact moment. Oh, I like that. That's a nice counter. It's actually pretty cool.
It's interesting to watch, and I've actually streamed some of the PL fights back in Catch and showed them using the smart bomb tactic. It's really interesting.
Nice. Okay. Well, good. I would love to see more doctrines that are not Ishtars and Tingus. I mean, it's nice to see them attack the Ishtar directly. I mean, for a long time there was a lot of basically excuses and reasons for why they would change a tiny tweak percentage-wise on drones as a whole, and rather than just hitting the Ishtar with a sledgehammer. And so we've had this.
This is what should have happened 6 months ago. So I mean,
it is interesting because like the idea of this iterative balancing philosophy was pitched way back in the day as being we don't want to hit ships with a sledgehammer and we want to do these incremental changes, but until they get to a tipping point where it's no longer beneficial to use that particular doctrine, it takes forever, and that's why you end up with 2 years of Ishtars and Tingus. Right. If they had just gone back to sort of the old CCP, and here we go, marker, I'm going to put that down on the table, sort of the old CCP way of doing things, of, it would suck when your favorite ship would just get hit with a Nerf bat, but you would see a lot more dynamism in the doctrinal meta. Because Dynamism, yes.
Sorry, let me go to dictionary.com.
Absolutely. A lot more permutations and nuances.
Any of various theories or philosophical systems that seek to explain phenomena of nature by the action of force. All right, we're good.
Okay. Are you with me now, Leslie?
Yeah, I got it.
Do you need to look up things in the dictionary a little bit more? Okay.
I need a few more drinks.
All right. It is the 4th of July. It is time for some freedom and some barbecues and some breaking away from the British. So the whole like old CCP thing, do we want to use that as the segue? Do we want to?
Yeah, I think that kind of like we just kind of really jumped feet first into that into your soapbox, and that is the wormhole nerf and kind of what it means. I believe you said Jester posted something really interesting on.
Before we get there, why don't you tell us what how we found out about the wormhole nerf and the specifics that we know?
Yeah, I didn't actually see a dev blog. People mentioned to me that there was a dev blog, but I looked at the dev blog section of the forums and everything like that, and there was no actual dev blog, and there's nothing in the features and discussions about the wormholes. But all I saw was inside the actual Aegis patch notes section it says they're going to be decreasing the amount, the connections for wormholes and the time that they persist. So right now you can find a wormhole and it lasts X amount of time before it goes away. Now they're going to lower that amount of time so that it actually is persistent in the world before it despawns. So they're going to make where there's less connections for the C5s into other wormholes and C6s and all the larger ones into other wormholes. Also, the 0, 0 to 0, 0 connections they're going to limit. And I think
that's absolutely the big thing. So I actually have the wording for it here. So this is hidden in a patch note, and there was no real discussion about this that I saw anywhere. Right. Which is, quote, Bob has spoken, the spawn rate and lifetime of some wormhole connections to nullsec space have been changed. So we know that means reduced.
Right.
And that is where we are. So I guess I'll go ahead and have one peanut answer the question about my goatee, I have a light source over here. I figured out what was going on because when I look in the mirror, people are constantly in chat saying that my goatee looks off. I could get a balancing light source over here, possibly, but the reality is the light is all coming from here, so it always looks off on the show. There you go. So, and that's a nice, happy moment before we get into basically dude, what the fuck.
Well, I mean, the biggest thing is I mean, right now, for the last, year now, everyone has been jumping all over space because pre-Phoebe it was jump drives, and then after Phoebe it was with wormholes. So, I mean, it's every single patch over the past, year now has been about slowing down people's ability to travel and go places.
All right, so I'm getting ready for rant.
I can see you limbering up.
I gotta get ready, gotta lean back, gotta wait for a moment, and then... All right, let's do this.
Yes.
Old CCP. There are many changes in the way in which the design philosophy of the designers of EVE Online have... these changes have happened repeatedly over the years, but there are sort of a broad pattern. We've now seen a change in the last, I'd say basically like a year and a half, 2 years, with the way in which the designers have been approaching particularly issues in nullsec, which is one of the most vibrant and dynamic aspects of the game. Important point before we go into this, remember that the correlation in the drop in logged in player numbers is directly associated with June 1st, which was when it was announced that FozzieSob is being delayed. So what happened is there you got to see a direct mathematical reflection of the reality of who plays EVE and why they play it. When CCP announced that FozzieSob was delayed for a month, you basically lost almost 9,000 to 10,000 users logged in on average over the course of just a couple of weeks.
Right.
So that's very important. So nullsec dynamism and the importance of nullsec, keep that in mind, because a lot of times people say, oh, nullsec doesn't really matter, blah, blah, blah. The reality is that for each nullsec player, there's a sort of an iceberg worth of alts and other sort of systems that these people on their accounts are keeping active. That's point one. Point two, old school CCP design philosophy. We have player-owned stations. Why? We have player-owned stations because way back in the day, before they were implemented in one of the very first expansions in EVE, the developers noticed that players were keeping safe spots with lots of anchored cans full of stuff, and they were using these to repair and resupply and sort of store all their crap. So CCP would see what the players were doing, and then they would respond to this by enabling that kind of sandbox gameplay. They'd say, oh, you want this kind of sand? Well, here you have some more, right? Why does this matter? For many, many years, you would see that the players would do a thing first, and in many developer talks and conferences and lectures that CCP staff would give, they would say that the players, there's more than us.
Right.
The players are smarter than us simply by numbers and brain trust. We can't predict what they're going to do, but when they do a thing that's really interesting, we want to enable that gameplay. So this brings us to this wormhole business, and again, keep in mind what happened on June 1st with the delay.
Right.
And that of players waiting in nullsec for something to do. I saw yesterday on Reddit a sort of smug post by Ripper Teg, who is a former CSM and Gadfly blogger, who is quite useful in some ways, in that he posts the graphs of these PCU numbers and things that are important for us to see. They're very valuable to the community, and for that he deserves a lot of respect.
Right.
But I'm going to read this entire post now because it really illustrates basically everything that's wrong with this attitude and where things are going presently. It's almost absurdly funny, he says. It's almost absurdly funny the links certain player groups are going to right now to avoid CCP's stated intent. It's a pity that EVE's media sites and bloggers have either missed it or don't care. We want players to live in space, for most conflicts to be local, and for most fights to use smaller fleet doctrines, says CCP. The players say, we shall use wrecking balls of dozens of carriers to overwhelm most any smaller fleet. They will need massive supercap fleets to oppose us. CCP says in Rubicon, thus, the drone assist nerf. Dudes, it's simple. We want you to live in space and fight your neighbors. The players then respond, we will use our supercap fleet to move around, using bridges and pre-stage titans to jump across the full length of the galaxy. CCP responds in Phoebe. Jump range nerf. Ahem. We insist that players live in space and for most conflicts to be local. The players respond. We will pre-stage massive fleets and death clone across the length of the galaxy to get to these staging points on a daily basis. CCP responds in RIA, or however the fuck you say it. Death clone nerf. Damn it, come on, this is easy. You must live in space. You must fight your neighbors. The players respond, we will use wormholes to jump across the galaxy, bringing through huge fleets of subcaps to overwhelm our enemies there. And now CCP says in Aegis, in all capital letters in his post, wormhole nerf. Listen, you fuckwits. Conflict, local, live space, live space, live in space. Smaller fights, grr. Close quote. And then he has some sort of smug thing about I shouldn't be, but I'm loving this, blah, blah, blah. So here is what you see. Mathematically speaking, players want certain types of content. They want to be able to log on and have a fight. Apparently, the players consistently want big fights, big events, the kind of events that get you written up in the BBC, because the difference between EVE Online and playing a game like World of Warcraft is when you kill a raid boss in World of Warcraft, nobody cares because everybody's done it. When you win a fight like a BR5, people like Laz with his beard have to basically schedule interviews with major media organizations to talk about this game that we all play, and everyone who was there and was part of this greater narrative gets to say to the people on the internet who watch EVE Online and read about it, and thus want to try it in these major media pieces about the things that we do in nullsec, they can say, I was there. Oh, I mean, even my fucking hairdresser who is sort of a gamer, but he's more like the kind of like a frat boy console gamer, more like a punk than a frat boy, but like he knew about BR5 because it was everywhere. So, back in the day,
I'm not sure what's funnier, him knowing about BR5 or you having a hairdresser.
What's even funnier is if I have a hairdresser and he's doing this, why is this not fixed? I don't understand. It's a mystery for our viewers to contemplate. But putting on the soapbox here, if the players are doing a thing and they want to do it, back in the day they would be enabled. What Jester is bragging about here in this ludicrously congratulatory Reddit post is people are playing in the sandbox the wrong way, and that needs to be stopped. And yet the entire point, the unique selling point of EVE, from a design, from a fun, from a practice philosophy, remember the sandbox trailer? You know, you're a butterfly effect, you're a lone wolf in a sandbox. Well, now you're apparently being told over and over again, you're sandboxing wrong. This is an EVE game that's a sandbox, but it's not the sandbox that we want, so we're going to take these things away. Players want to go across the galaxy and stab each other to death. That's why we keep finding ways to do it. When they are removed from that, when that ability is removed, as we've seen from June 1st, everybody's waiting for Fozzie-Sov, it gets delayed, people stop logging in.
Right.
That has got to stop. EVE must be preserved, and a design philosophy of you're playing the sandbox wrong, and so we're going to try to change the sandbox to stop you, in contradictions of math and player logins and number of kill mails and business sense. That is not correct. The ideals of some random blogger about how we should sandbox and the ideals of whatever small gang PvP aficionado has decided that everyone should like small gang PvP in this particular way, it's madness. It is foolish, it is short-sighted, and that is being reflected by math, which is inarguable.
Well, I mean,
there you go.
Well, in all of EVE's history, everyone, because you don't want to fight at home, you want to go fight in someone else's home because you don't want to lose your shit. You have your safe little abode up in the north, and we're going to go down south and wreck your shit and not worry about our own stuff. So, I mean, it's the way EVE's been played since the beginning. I'm trying to think of a time that you actually wanted to take a fight in your own backyard, but I mean, yeah, a defensive fight is fun, but then you were risking your actual, all your income and all that, and you don't want that.
What bothers me about this isn't so much the fact that this discussion is happening, because the point the Jester is making, he's referring to things like the change to death clones, which I liked, the jump range nerf, which I was not so cool with. Jump fatigue has, I think, been a very bad thing for the game. Drone assist nerf, I was a big advocate for because that mechanic was bad. What concerns me about this is the fact that this was slipped into a patch note.
Right.
There's no dev blog, there's no discussion, there was no community discussion about, do we want people to be able to have small gangs from nullsec use wormholes and thus experience wormhole space? It was one of the things that was quite interesting. Many nullsec alliances have been learning about W space, and their players are getting to experience that. But no discussion. Here's the thing in a patch note. No, we don't want you doing that because of reasons which aren't stated anywhere. Well, we'll see how it goes.
Yeah.
But I think that it is poor form to do something like this without any kind of community discussion about it.
Yeah. Well, I mean, we'll have to kind of wait and see how they respond and how they take player feedback when it comes to these changes. But now, guys, we're going to have to move on to our guest segment and get Vanilla Moses on. So, guys, we're going to have a short 2-minute or so intermission where you get to stare at this pretty new splash screen while we get Vanilla Moses in, and then we'll come back live with Vanilla Moses. So, give us 1 minute.
Hope you enjoyed the rant, boys.
Alright, guys, so we were not able to get Vanilla Moses' webcam up live, so unfortunately, Linux apparently with Skype does not work with group calls. He has a webcam and everything, it does work, just not with Linux and group calls.
Wait, you mean Skype is owned by Microsoft, and Microsoft products don't play well with Linux? This is my surprised face, complete with uneven goatee. Shock.
Go figure.
Yeah, absolutely. So, guys, like I said, we do have Vanilla Mooses on. We have about 16 minutes left in the show, so we're going to jump through this very quickly. Vanilla Mooses, give us a little rundown of what you do in EVE and
who are you?
Yeah, exactly.
Who in
Start with that.
the hell is this guy? What's up, Laz? What's up, Mittani? I am Vanilla Mooses. Basically, I'm the director of integration for Karma Fleet in the Goon Swarm. Basically, in a nutshell, I set the policies that make sure our hundreds of newbies, make that transition from what the hell am I doing, what is EVE, to becoming active members of the Alliance. I set up a voucher system for them, basic fleet requirements, kind of identify the trouble members and the tryhards and get them sorted before they self-destruct. And I'm kind of the bridge between our internal affairs department, which is head up by Uncle Pilot and Celeste, and our human resources department, which is Kyra. I kind of reduce their headaches, basically.
Great. Yeah, it's awesome. And I know you also do some FCing for Mini Love. We had you on Newbie Tuesday twice now, and you actually took us through Newbie Tuesday and showed us how to gank miners in low sec on Newbie Tuesday. I think we had something like 250, 300 people watching us gank miners in low sec. It was pretty incredible.
Oh, it was a blast. It was a blast. We were killing freighters, miners. It was good fun.
This is a really critically important question. All right, and it's something that's been bothering me ever since I knew you were going to be a guest on the show.
Okay.
Why not one moose? Why mooses?
I really have no idea. I subscribed to EVE in December of last year, and I was just reading some gaming article. I think it was the This Is EVE video maybe had come out, and my girlfriend had gotten home from work and brought me 2 chocolate mousse desserts from my favorite restaurant. So I had chocolate mousses. And I was thinking about the plural, so I have the Pilot's chocolate mousses, vanilla mousses, strawberry mousses, Neapolitan mousses, many plural mousses.
That's awesome.
The
Well, I
worst
suppose it's better than one. I mean, I don't know.
Exactly. Or like Laz usually calls me on the stream, and a lot of other people, Moses gets thrown out
like
there,
it's
so.
I don't know, it's just like it doesn't roll off the you think MOSES or just it doesn't. I don't know. It's in my brain. My brain's all fucked up.
I've been spending all this time talking about newbie organizations with the whole Brave drama and getting people into EVE and doing that. So integration sounds kind of like a corporate buzzword. What can you tell us about that? Like the process of bringing into newbies into an organization that's not a council system with.
It's a good question. Basically, it is a little bit of a buzzword. The easiest way to put it is I try to set policies and put systems in place that make sure it doesn't become just a matter of you're new to EVE, here's the Goon Fleet forms with God knows how many years of information, read everything and figure it out, versus what I try to do, which is, set up programs, point them in the right places, make sure they're getting on fleets, make sure they're getting active, and make sure they're getting social, and they're getting to know not only members of Goon Swarm, but members from all across the Imperium. That they're getting involved with our special interest groups, that they're working with everyone. And the one thing that I've found in this experience is the ultimate way to take that trial account to an actual player is getting them social, is getting them involved in various groups.
That is actually really quite interesting because, Karma Fleet is a fascinating organization to us because one of the major dramas that we have seen play out in New Eden and recently just on the source website as a whole is, seeing Reddit culture and how can it be organized in any kind of way. Karma Fleet is, of course, originally a Reddit-based organization that sort of spawned as a schism, as it were, from Brave Newbies, and we sort of took them in and said, you can come to Goonswarm where you'll have crushing tyranny and autocracy. No one will have a council. No one will have a voice. You will, there's only some jerk in a red shirt with a mismatched goatee. And it's really flourished. And meanwhile, we're sort of seeing all these other organizations that were Reddit-based sort of devouring each other, kind of like the site Reddit itself has been devouring itself this week.
Yes.
And Karma Fleet has the process of making newbies be social mirrors what we in Goonfleet found out way back in the day when we were recruiting newbies from Something Awful, which we still do today, is that it is absolutely the number one key thing to get people to play EVE and enjoy EVE is to make friends, play games with friends. They're not playing EVE, play other games with their EVE friends, and that's how you really build people into a tight social network that can overcome the challenges in the learning cliff.
Yeah, I ran into this issue a lot with the whenever I was doing Newbie Tuesday streams. A lot of people ask me, well, I did some of the tutorial stuff, I did some of the opportunity stuff, but now what? And there's nothing in EVE that's really directing people into these groups, and so I guess it's more of a question for Vanilla Mooses. I have to really try, or else
you're getting it. It's all good.
It's, how do you guys go and find these new players? How should CCP rather be looking at directing these new players to different organizations? In your opinion,
well, that's a big thing. I actually, when I knew I was going to be on the show, I took the time to gather a little panel of about 15 players who have been EVE players for under 30 days. And this doesn't mean they just started a new pilot. I mean, they've been playing EVE for less than 30 days. And they all, we had a lot of different opinions, but there were a few things they all agreed with. And what they all agreed with was that the new opportunities system is just fucking useless. It gave them nothing. It was confusing, didn't do anything from them. Some of them found a little bit of solace with career agents and that sort of stuff. But the one thing they all agreed on, and that I found that the most interesting thing, is that every single one of them, when asked what got them away from high sec and running the same level 2 mission over and over and all that stuff, was knowing someone from outside of EVE, knowing someone via Something Awful or another gaming community or Mittani.com or Reddit, or having a real-life brother or a real-life friend, someone who was already there that they were being social with. So I would say almost all of our real quality new applicants end up being connected in that way. It's a social connection that brings them in. So what we were discussing this with directors of Karma Fleet, and what we'd really like to see would be CCP actually giving a little more clarity to maybe funnel these players into established alliances, to encourage them to contact groups like Brave or Karma Fleet, or you get the idea.
Well, I think that would be really interesting to do. The opportunity system, I'm curious to hear that. That's the first time I've heard that. I know that CCP asked for a new round of feedback regarding opportunities. And I have spent so much time over the years fighting against the old tutorial. And the problem is that it's really hard to get a good perspective of what makes a good tutorial as someone who has played the game and knows all of these things in the background of your unconscious assumptions about how the game works. So I actually really like the opportunity system. And when I saw it and I saw it was implemented, I was like, whoa, this is fantastic. This is so much better than the old tutorial. But I was not, I couldn't put myself in a veil of ignorance. I thought it was a classier and more self-directed way of doing it. But some of the feedback that we have been seeing is that, EVE, so many other games require people to require no self-direction. Other games tell you to do anything, and dropping somebody into EVE, apparently with the tutorial where you can go choose to do this, that, or the other thing, is just not enough direction for a non-standard, a non-sandbox gamer, I guess.
Right. Yeah.
That's the thing we all agreed with the players that I spoke to, was just that the opportunity system was not directed enough. It felt very scattershot. And I agree with Mittani. Like, I was all for the removal of the tutorial and bringing in this opportunity system. It looked great to me. And then when I actually started talking to real new players, they all seemed to just think it was useless. And I would take their view over mine because they're actual new players and I'm not.
Well, I did a Newbie Tuesday on the new opportunities, and there is a severe lack of direction to them. And it's just like, here's a bunch of stuff, and it just kind of jumps you around to a bunch of different topics. There's no like set order with how you should be learning things. Like, it's teaching you about the market and shit. You don't even know how to fly your ship, and it's already have you doing missions, and it's just completely like jumbled.
Well, this is actually an interesting topic that one of our viewers has brought up in chat, saying that people are running into that issue because they lack imagination. The thing is that, and that's a sort of a smug comment that a lot of existing EVE players, an attitude that we can have is, oh, we're better than WoW players, we're better than this, we're better than that, we explore all these possibilities. But the reality is that imagination and thinking to be self-directed is something that is not really trained in most aspects of life. I mean, most people don't get taught in school how to think for themselves. In school, in work, in 99% of games, for many, many decades, if not centuries, people have been trained that you are told what to do. Go here, do this, get this reward. And that habit loop has to be taught to be untaught, I guess you'd say. A tutorial in EVE, like the opportunity system, I think something that Vanilla Moose's said, one of his newbies told him that would be interesting, is that if there was a little bit more direction in terms of bouncing people between these opportunities, with the understanding that we have to teach EVE players to have that possibility. If you've never been in a sandbox, if you've never had an opportunity for true self-direction, you don't know what to do. And you're just going to wander off until somebody teaches you.
It's so much easier as an older player or a bitter vet to say that these new players lack imagination. And I think a lot of the time, it's not that they lack imagination, it's that they don't even know what's possible, so they can't imagine it in the first place. And if they're not getting that presented to them by CCP, if the opportunity system is simply go here, mine a rock, get a little thing that goes ding, you've mined a rock, versus, hey, maybe you should try interacting with PL or Goonswarm or Brave and go join a nullsec coalition and see if you like it, or go join a wormhole corp or things like that. It doesn't encourage them to dream and to become part of larger groups, which goes right back to that socialization thing. Be social.
Yeah, it's about a community at the end of the day. I mean, that's what we've seen reflected so much is community building. You build the community first. Alliances. This is sort of like metagame politics stuff, but one of the things that I found in my 5 years of time as a spy master before I ended up being CEO of Goonswarm, studying and focusing on the failure cascade, was the alliances that had a strong community first, regardless of how good their players were in terms of the skill cap in the game. The strong community gave an alliance incredible durability. So Red Alliance, what we were talking about earlier on the show, was able to survive incredible setbacks in terms of losing all their space, scandals, lost wars, but they had a tight-knit community, so they would never go away. Goonswarm survived an awful lot of awful things happening to it at one time or another, not because we were good at the game, because we're not, but because, again, if you build the community first, then the resilience and the strength is there. If you don't have that, any little thing will make an alliance hit a failure cascade.
Yeah, and we see that so much in EVE Online. But let me just pause you guys for just a minute, guys. We're going to be rolling into our giveaways. We have about 3 minutes left of the show, so I want to give away this awesome swag that CCP has given us, and thanks so much to CCP for this. The first set of giveaways is going to be the Pirate Rookie codes we're going to be giving out. So guys, make sure you type in chat, make sure you're active, and we'll be giving those away. We also have today, let me make sure I have this on my list, I believe we're giving away a collector's edition, the 10th anniversary collector's edition we're giving away to everyone on the stream here. And then we also have a sub-only giveaway.
You're eligible to it for everyone on the stream.
Yes, sorry.
Not everyone on the stream. We have one to give away.
Wording is important.
As long as you've been active and following the chat.
And of course, it's important. And it's important to remember that this is all rigged.
Yeah.
Don't forget that.
Always
all
rigged
all the time.
Yep, 100%.
I'm so happy that's catching on.
Folks, the couple of again, the faction newbie frigates. You can also ask questions in chat, but I think that people have been pretty active. Let's just make it rain for the boys.
Yes,
let's give some stuff away.
Absolutely. I'll go ahead and roll here right now.
Good luck, everyone.
And guys, you also have to be following the stream. If you're not following the stream, you cannot win. Guys, the first winner is going to be CTU Bauer. CTU Bauer, who also one of our resubs today. I think he was at 6 or 7 months of resubs. Man, thank you so much for the support. And you have won
Congratulations, CTU Bauer.
Message the channel with what you won, CTU, and we'll send it to you. So guys, make sure you're following the channel. You can't win if you aren't following. So guys, we're going to go ahead and do the next roll right now. And it's going to be Wisdom 179. Wisdom 179, you've won the second skin.
Congratulations.
So make sure you message the channel for that.
Congratulations.
And now for the big stuff, the physical giveaways. One of these is going to be just for followers. The last one, the super special one, which is the limited edition Art of New Eden book. There's only 2,001 of these books, hardcovers, fancy as hell, in existence. That will be our subscriber giveaway. So that's only for subscribers, but for followers, you can win a collector's edition, 10th anniversary edition of EVE Online with mystery codes and all that sexy stuff. So who's going to get that, Laz?
Yeah, well, the Evil Line Collectors is 10th anniversary, guys. It's a pretty big deal, and if you win this, you need to make sure you send the channel all your personal details, address, address, name, so like something. I need to send you a physical package. So anything that I need to know for that, send to the channel, please.
And you get that golden pod out of it to show off your swag stuff.
Yeah.
Golden pod, you get some dust skins, you get a whole bunch of stuff. All right, so who's it gonna be, Lance?
I just rolled it, and the winner, which is kind of hilarious, is Eve Newbro LOLs. Is the winner.
Newbro LOLs. Well, that's perfect. Wonderful. Well, Eve Newbro LOLs, go ahead and send us your information. Message the Twitch channel. You actually can't just put it in chat here.
Yeah, don't do that.
Just send to Mittani.com, the Twitch channel, a message with your name and your address for your collector's edition.
Please don't post your address in public.
Yes, absolutely. I mean, if you can do that, you can post your address wherever you want, but that's your problem, not ours. I can't. We're not the boss of you. Let's go ahead and go for some sub-hot boys and girls.
Sub-only mode now.
Sub-only mode. Mittens, kittens, I guess. We had Perma-Kitten earlier. That was interesting. I was watching myself on the stream,
it was amazing.
peering down over the top of a kitten.
It might have been the best moment of this entire show ever.
Anyway,
Never not obey the hypno.
that'll be amazing. That'll be Perma-Kitten now. There's regular Hypno-Kitten and then there's Perma-Kitten.
I don't know why you get bugged. Like, I literally had to turn it off and turn it back on manually for it to work. So
I missed when the kitten made the sound effect that would drive Matani crazy
All
on
right.
stream.
It was making the sound effect that it was just doing it in Laz's ear earlier. So, like, whenever anybody subs, Laz is going like this, but thankfully the rest of us are not.
All right, guys. We're doing the roll right now. Doing the sub roll right now. Sub rigged roll coming up for the Eve Online collectors.
All the time.
What, is it
Good
collectors
luck,
or limited edition art book?
It is the limited edition.
Okay.
It is only 2001 of these things exist. They are hardcover. They are badass as hell, and we are very thankful for CCP helping sponsor the show and allow us to give back to the community in this way. CCP Falcon was actually so kind as to join us last week on the Meta Show and clarified the exact mechanics of follower versus subscriber giveaways and gave us his official imprimatur to give you this stuff, our subscribers, as long as it's a physical good.
And the winner of this limited edition art book is going to be Lion_IX. Buddy, just send the channel with all your physical address for us to mail this to you. And guys,
congrats.
Lion IX, congratulations.
We have now gone over 1 minute, so we're going to have to wrap things up before Cyan yells at me. So Vanilla Moose, I wish we had a little more time for you, man, and we'll have to get you on the show again so we can really go dig into more of this newbie stuff. And thanks for coming on.
Hey, thanks for having me, and it was a pleasure.
All right, well, happy 4th of July, everyone, and we'll see you guys in the next show in the for the Undead Zone.